She departed from her village to pursue her studies overseas, and gradually, every aspect of her life began to transform. If you appreciate heartfelt narratives with significance, you have come to the right place. Subscribe for stories that linger in your memory. Yugoti was merely a village girl with a single suitcase and aspirations that surpassed her entire existence. She was leaving behind everything she had ever known for a life she had only glimpsed in photographs. For Yugo's family, this moment was of utmost importance. Her father had sold a parcel of land that had been in their family for generations. Her mother had parted with some of her most treasured possessions, not out of wealth, but because they believed their daughter deserved a future greater than the village they inhabited. Studying abroad was not merely an opportunity for Yugo, it was a sacrifice her family had made on her behalf, and she understood that she could never squander it. As the driver took her further away from home, Yugo sat by the window, headphones on, her heart pounding. It was her first experience traveling such a distance, her first time leaving her homeland. Deep down, she pondered what life awaited her on the other side of the globe. Upon her arrival at the airport, her excitement swiftly morphed into anxiety. Passport, visa, boarding pass. Yugo repeatedly checked them, ensuring everything was in order. She had come too far to make an error now. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. It was a video message from home. Her parents were smiling, yet their expressions were serious. They urged her to remain focused, to remember her family, and to not lose herself in such a different world. Honey, are you certain this phone won't fall from where you placed it? Yes, it's completely secure. Regardless, Yugachi, my dear, please always keep in mind the goals you have and the family you come from. Yugo chuckled softly, but those words would carry more weight than she realized. Oh, I miss them already. Shortly after, her flight was announced, and just like that, Yugo was stepping into a new chapter of her life, one brimming with possibilities. She settled by the window, sighs, her heart racing. Below her, the village she had always known seemed to shrink, while the world she had only envisioned unfolded before her. For the first time, everything appeared attainable. After several hours in the air, Yugo finally touched down. Everything appeared altered. The airport, the people, the pace of everything surrounding her. It felt as though she had entered an entirely different realm. She promptly sent a message to her parents, informing them of her safe arrival. Following that, she took a taxi to the school. Inside the taxi, the driver engaged her in casual conversation. First time in the country? Yes, sir. I just arrived today. That's quite a significant change. What brings you here? University. Oh, interesting. Well, welcome. It may feel odd at first, but you will find your rhythm. Thank you, sir. Yugo gazed out the window at the city lights flashing by, filled with excitement, anxiety, and hope. She had no inkling that her life was about to become quite complicated. Eventually, the taxi arrived at her new residence, Crown Ridge University. The campus was enormous. Students were everywhere. Some were dragging suitcases, while others were reuniting with old friends. For a brief moment, Yugo stood there, staring, as this place that resembled a scene from a movie became her new reality. Her dormitory was named Maple Hall, and it was just as chaotic as one would expect during move-in week. Students were scattered everywhere, suitcases rolling through the corridors, laughter resonating from every corner. Yugo clutched the small piece of paper the school had provided her, attempting to locate her room. Suddenly, she collided with someone. Oh, I sincerely apologize. I didn't mean to. It's all right, the girl replied with a smile. It's fine. Her name was Riley, and unbeknownst to them both, their lives were about to become deeply intertwined. When Yugo finally located her room, she was delighted. It featured a bunk bed and a single bed, which appeared to have already been occupied, indicating that one of her roommates had already settled in. It appears that one of my roommates has already arrived. Then, a few minutes later, she gradually began to transform the space into her own. Clothes were placed in the wardrobe, a family photo adorned the desk, and there were posters and decorations, with a small Nigerian flag positioned above her bed, serving as a tiny reminder of her origins. Weary from her long journey, Yugo finally collapsed onto her bed and fell asleep, dreaming of the life that lay ahead. Morning arrived, soft and bright. She awoke to find her roommate already awake, Riley, the girl she had encountered the previous day. "Good morning, roomie." "Oh, hello. It's you from the hallway." The two began to familiarize themselves with one another, and it was evident that they were destined to become great friends. "I had anticipated this place would be much colder." "Oh, you're not from around here?" "No, this is actually my first time in the country." "Oh, that's wonderful." A few shy smiles quickly evolved into laughter, and soon they were strolling together across the campus, coffee in hand, discussing dreams, aspirations, and everything in between. She also took the opportunity to introduce Riley to her parents. "This is my roommate, Riley." "Hi, everyone." "Don't worry, Yugo is in good hands." However, Yugo's tranquil moment was short-lived, as when she returned to the room later that day, someone else was already present. Their third roommate, Maki. "She must be our roommate, correct?" The moment she spotted Yugo, she rushed over and embraced her as if she had known Yugo her entire life, which left Yugo feeling perplexed. "When I saw your flag and posters, I was overjoyed to finally have a Nigerian roommate. It's a pleasure to meet you, Amochi. And your Igbo, too." "Wow. My name is Maki, by the way." "That's wonderful. It's nice to meet you, Ma." For Yugo, it felt akin to reuniting with family in a foreign land. Yet, what she failed to notice was the expression on Riley's face, as Riley and Muna were already acquainted, and it was not a pleasant connection. "Oh, by the way, this is Riley." "Oh, I know her." When Yugo inquired about what was happening, Riley simply remarked that it was something strange. "Wait, you two are familiar with each other?" "Yes, from freshman year. So, what transpired? Why have you all stopped communicating?" "I prefer not to discuss it, but exercise caution regarding whom you place your trust in," and just as Yugo was about to inquire about her statement, Muna re-entered the room. "I fail to comprehend. What do you mean by being cautious about whom to trust? The last time I checked, I was not conversing with you. It certainly appeared as though you were. If you perceive it as an attack, that is your issue. As for me, I am prepared to confront this girl." "Oh, go ahead and try. And you are aware of how this will conclude." Hold on. You both should really calm down. I am not engaging in this." The tension between them was palpable. Suddenly, Yugo came to a realization. Her new life overseas was already becoming intricate. Later that evening, Yugo sat on her bed, smiling gently as she conversed with her parents over the phone. On the upper bunk, Muna was positioned in front of the mirror, meticulously applying her makeup. After concluding the call, Yugo rose to fetch some water. As she walked past Riley's bed, she hesitated. Riley had yet to return. Since the earlier argument that day, Riley had not come back to the dome, nor had she responded to any of Yugo's messages. Yugo's expression shifted slightly with concern. Where could she possibly be at this hour? At that moment, she spotted Ma. "Oh, are you heading out?" "Yes, indeed. I have a party to attend. It is rather late, though. Ensure you return before curfew." "I cannot hear you, madam." Then Muna attempted to convince Yugo to accompany her. However, Yugo initially declined. "Sis, you absolutely must join me for this party. A wealthy Nigerian sophomore is hosting it." No. I cannot go out at this hour." "Do not be overly dramatic, Ja. It is merely 9 p.m., and we will return before midnight. Muna, do not fret. You can enjoy yourself." "I am perfectly fine." "Please, Na, there will be delicious spicy jollof rice. Therefore, I am content, Ma." Then Ma unexpectedly made a remark that caused Yugo to pause. All right, I will disclose what transpired between Riley and me if you accompany me." Yugo hesitated. She had been intrigued by that argument all day. She did not wish for any negativity to exist among her roommates. Perhaps if she comprehended what had occurred, she had the ability to resolve issues. After a brief pause, she consented. "Very well, but you must inform me." "Oh." Prior to departing, Yuko hastily grabbed her phone and sent a message to Riley. "Hello, Ma has invited me to a gathering. I will return before curfew." However, Riley did not respond. Her phone still indicated offline status. A few minutes later, Yugo stood before the mirror, adorned in one of the dresses she had brought from home. It was a long black village dress. Yugoi, what are you wearing? Aside from the loose-fitting attire I typically wear here, this is essentially all I possess. I do not come from wealth, hence no designer garments or handbags. You know what? We can discuss that later. For the moment, you should wear this dress. It will suit you beautifully. No, Ma. I will not feel at ease. It is far too short. Please. It is genuinely lovely. Ma, I am content with my current outfit. Thank you. All right. Would you at least consider taking this designer handbag? Wah. Ma, this appears to be quite costly. I cannot accept it, Ja. No excuses. Before long, they were outside the dormitory awaiting their Uber. Muna was preoccupied with taking selfies, posing with confidence. Meanwhile, Yugo surveyed her surroundings anxiously. Everything about this experience felt unfamiliar to her. Late nights, raucous parties. This was not the lifestyle she was accustomed to. During the journey, Yugo reminded Ma of the promise. Muna sighed dramatically and then began narrating her perspective of the situation. She depicted Riley as a jealous and toxic individual. Someone who consistently creates problems. Oya, begin explaining. What transpired between you and Riley? Oh, right. I am unsure why you are so curious. Nevertheless, we were friends last semester. However, she began spreading rumors about me. Initially, they were minor lies, but then they escalated to more significant ones regarding my family, my background, and even my friends. Lies? She? No, that does not align with her character. I understand it is difficult to accept, but it is the truth. I even possess screenshots and messages. She attempted to convince others that I am not who I truly am. People believed her. It was incredibly exasperating. Riley did not appear to be that way when I first met her. This is quite perplexing. Yugo, observe, she does not comprehend individuals like us, those who possess genuine ambition and truly care about our origins. Yugo listened in silence. She was not entirely persuaded, yet the narrative lingered in her thoughts. Consider this, it is beneficial that we are roommates. We are sisters, thus I will shield you from those with ill intentions. Upon their arrival, the party was already in full swing. Music reverberated throughout the house. Lights flickered in every direction, and as soon as Mona entered, people hurried to welcome her. It was evidently a popular gathering. Meanwhile, Yugo stood quietly beside her, nearly unnoticed in the throng. After some time, Ma guided Yugo to a table. She attempted to persuade her to drink, but Yugo declined. You should try this drink, Ja. It is truly delightful. No, Ma. I do not consume alcohol. I am content with my cola. Boring girl. I do not understand why you are so uptight. Just relax, girl. I am simply not accustomed to this. Then, unexpectedly, Ma vanished into the crowd, leaving Yugo by herself. Anyway, I am leaving. Try to enjoy yourself, Yugo. While Yugo sat there, anxiously scanning her surroundings, a young man approached her. They engaged in casual conversation, nothing of significance, but before departing, he smiled and remarked something that resonated with her. You seem like this is not your environment. It is not. Yeah, I used to think that as well. Really? What prompted the change? I ceased being afraid of exploring new experiences. Yugo contemplated those words. Perhaps she had been overanalyzing everything. Perhaps this life was not as dreadful as she had perceived. I am not afraid of exploring new experiences, sir. Sure you are not. Well, I must take my leave. It was a pleasure meeting you. And remember, try something new occasionally. You may surprise yourself. After he departed, she glanced at her phone. 11:50 p.m. She had lost track of time. Her heart sank. Curfew was at 12 a.m., and the school enforced curfew rigorously. It is nearly 12 a.m. Oh, curfew. Where is Muna? She navigated through the boisterous crowd, searching everywhere, but she could not locate her. The music blared. People danced. The atmosphere in the room was intense. Eventually, she dashed outside and found Muna smoking with her friends. Ma. Yugo, where have you been, girl? What are you doing? Relax, Joy. It's not that serious. Ma was quite inebriated, leaving Yugo with no option. She summoned an Uber and struggled to keep Ma steady, as Ma could hardly walk. Once inside the Uber, Yugo swiftly contacted Riley. Hello, Riley. I require your assistance. Muna is extremely drunk, and I cannot manage her alone. Please hurry. Curfew is approaching, and if she is caught in this state, both of you will face significant consequences. Thank you, Riley. They arrived just 3 minutes before curfew. Riley was already outside, visibly irritated, yet she still offered her help. Together, they carried Muna upstairs and laid her on Riley's bed. Muna mumbled incoherently, "Riley, leave me alone." Riley sighed and quietly sat on Yugo's bed. Meanwhile, Yugo carefully took off Muna's shoes and covered her with a blanket. A week later, classes officially commenced. Yugo, Riley, and Ma walked across campus together. Yugo and Riley were engaged in cheerful conversation, while Muna walked slightly ahead, absorbed in her phone. Suddenly, Muna seized Yugo's arm. Yugo, let's go get breakfast. Riley, do you want to join us? I didn't say anyone should accompany us. Don't worry. I have a class anyway. Why don't you listen? I said to stay away from that girl. She's insincere. But she hasn't done anything to me. So, you don't trust me, your sister? You know what? Let's go get coffee, and I'll show you something to demonstrate that Riley isn't who you believe she is. At the coffee shop, Ma leaned closer to Yugo and revealed a video, a clip of Riley expressing her anger towards Ma, labeling her a terrible person and claiming that no one could tolerate her. Yugo gazed at the screen in disbelief. Gradually, her perception of Riley began to shift. Just like that, Muna had gained her trust. Shortly thereafter, Muna started introducing Yugo to her circle of friends. The girls were boisterous, flamboyant, and self-assured, much like Muna. They quickly welcomed Yugo, laughing and joking as if they had known her for years. Yugo was the only freshman in their group. Ma and her friends were already sophomores, which meant they were well acquainted with how this campus operated. When it was time to order food, Muna casually waved her hand. So guys, feel free to get whatever you want. The bills are on me. Ma asked, what exactly do you do to have so much money? Laughter, Muna replied, let's just say I know the right people. Something about this answer felt odd, but Yugo quickly dismissed the thought. Perhaps Muna simply had wealthy friends. Shortly thereafter, the girls took Yugo shopping at designer stores and expensive boutiques, showcasing clothes Yugo had never envisioned wearing before, short and flashy outfits. Initially, she hesitated, but gradually she began to enjoy it, laughing and trying on new styles, and each time they reached the register, Muna paid without a second thought. Yugo didn't spend a single cent. That evening, back at their dorm, Yugo stood in front of the mirror, trying on one of the new outfits. It was far more revealing than anything she had ever worn before. It looks so good on you, girl. Let me go get the best shoes to match it. Yugo, are you comfortable? I thought you weren't a fan of revealing clothes. Yugo replied, yeah, but I like them now, so stop judging me. Riley blinked in surprise and said, Yugo, I wasn't judging you. Yugo responded, well, it sounded like you were. The room fell silent. Riley didn't argue, but she appeared confused. Something about Yugo had changed. Enjoying the story so far? Why not hit the subscribe button so you never miss any of our stories and give this video a thumbs up to support the channel. From that moment on, the changes became increasingly apparent. Yugo began dressing like Muna and her friends, short outfits, flashy styles, and late nights. Then, something even more concerning began to occur. She started skipping classes. One morning, Riley sat in a general lecture she had with Yugo, waiting and waiting. Her phone vibrated. She sent a text to Yugo, where are you? We're about to take a test. On the other side of campus, Yugo noticed the message, but Ma leaned over her shoulder. Forget that. Let's go have some fun. After a brief moment, Yugo chose to disregard the message. On another afternoon, Riley was in their room with Yugo. Although Riley was a sophomore, they coincidentally shared one general course that semester. Therefore, Riley had offered to assist Yugo in catching up, patiently clarifying the material to ensure she didn't fall too far behind, but suddenly Muna burst into the room. "Girl, why are you studying?" She seized Yugo's hand. "Let's go out." Yugo did not hesitate. She immediately stood up, leaving Riley sitting there alone, perplexed and frustrated. Soon, the transformation was complete. Late-night parties, dancing, drinking, flashing lights, and music vibrating through the room, Yugo was no longer the quiet village girl. She was evolving into someone entirely different. Even more troubling, she began deceiving her parents. Whenever they called, she donned her old simple clothes, smiled sweetly, and pretended that everything was perfect. But it was all a facade. "How are you, my dear? How are your classes going?" "Yes, Mama. I am doing very well and passing all my classes." "How is everyone doing?" "That's wonderful to hear, my dear. Just keep doing your best and make us proud." The girl her parents believed in and the girl she was becoming were no longer the same individual. Night after night, the parties grew louder, the drinks became stronger, and Yugo drifted further away from the person she once was. One morning, Riley was seated at her desk studying. Behind her, Yugo and Ma remained asleep, suffering from the effects of yet another night of revelry. Riley turned her gaze back to Yugo, her expression filled with concern. She was acutely aware of the situation unfolding and despised it. One evening, as Yugo prepared for another party, Riley finally voiced her thoughts. "Yugo, we have exams approaching rapidly, and you have neither been studying nor attending classes." Yugo retorted, "And how is that any of your concern?" "Huh? Just leave me be." "Yugo, you have truly changed," Riley replied. "Oh, you are so irritating. I now comprehend what Muna has been saying about you." Riley looked at her in shock, unable to recognize the girl who stood before her. The individual who had once been her closest companion on campus had transformed into someone Yugo could hardly tolerate. Instead, Yugo increasingly spent her time with Muna. Shopping with Muna had become routine for Yugo. Weeks prior, she would have been appalled by the prices, yet now she hardly questioned them. Ma consistently paid, and Yugo never inquired about the source of the funds. On another occasion, Yugo was preparing to leave for a major party. "Yugo, I must warn you, I have attended these parties before, and they are not typical gatherings. Please do not go." Yugo dismissed her, saying, "Riley, please mind your own affairs and leave me alone," before walking away. That night, the party was more extravagant than ever. Music blared, lights flickered, and the room was packed with people. This time, both Muna and Yugo were welcomed warmly. They reveled, laughed, and danced, but gradually, Yugo became increasingly intoxicated. Muna continued to offer her more drinks until Yugo could scarcely remain upright. Eventually, Muna and her friends abandoned Yugo, who then slumped onto a couch, barely aware of her surroundings. As Yugo succumbed to unconsciousness, something startling was occurring elsewhere. Now, I understand your curiosity about what will unfold next. Therefore, before we proceed, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe, as this narrative is about to become quite captivating. Ma and her companions were not merely party enthusiasts, they were involved in drug trafficking. This was the reason Ma always had an abundance of money, enabling her to cover all expenses from a more secluded area of the gathering. Muna reached into her bag, distributing small packets to eager buyers. In exchange, cash discreetly exchanged hands. The girls counted the money while laughing, but suddenly, someone burst into the room. "Listen up, everyone. We just received information that the police are on their way here, so we must leave immediately." Panic erupted throughout the space. Everyone began to gather their belongings and flee. However, Muna and her friends faced a dilemma. They possessed too many drugs to take with them, too much incriminating evidence. They needed a quick solution to conceal it. "Muna, where can we hide the items?" "Let me think." Gasps, "All right, I know where to put them." At that moment, Muna glanced across the room and spotted Yugo's bag. Without a moment's hesitation, she seized the drugs and stuffed every single packet into Yugo's bag. "Muna, isn't she your friend?" "Friend? Please, this girl is of no use to me. Then she fled, leaving Yugo behind, unconscious and alone. Minutes later, Muna and her friends sped away in a vehicle, laughing and ridiculing the situation. What a close call. I know, right? Laughter. And by the way, Muna, I genuinely thought you had an affection for that girl. Come on, that village thing. Gasps, please, I never cared for her. I merely wanted to get close to her to involve her in our operations, thus generating more profit for us. And, just like that, the reality became evident. Riley had been correct all along. Mona was never Yugo's friend. She had merely been biding her time for the ideal opportunity to exploit her. Yes, I invested a significant amount of money in her and managed to transform her. Yet, she still appeared disinterested, which was quite exasperating that I initially believed it would be straightforward since we share the same background. Yet, she proved to be quite obstinate. Laughter. Regardless, I have decided to move on from her. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Yugo lay still on the couch, entirely oblivious to the fact that in a matter of minutes, the police would arrive and discover the drugs in her bag. Suddenly, a figure entered the mansion quietly. It was Riley. She surveyed the surroundings cautiously before approaching the couch. Her gaze fell upon Yugo, who remained unconscious. Oh, Yugo, I had cautioned you. Then Riley observed something else. Yugo's bag. She examined it closely but refrained from touching it. Riley was aware that the police would be checking for fingerprints. If an excessive number of fingerprints were found on the bag, the investigation could become quite complex. Therefore, she left it exactly as it was and took Yugo's ID music card. Subsequently, she gently assisted Yugo in sitting up, supporting her weight, just as Yugo had once done for Mona weeks prior when she was intoxicated. The distinction was that Ma was not present to reciprocate the gesture, but Riley was. Minutes later, the police finally arrived at the mansion, but fortunately, Yugo had already departed. The following morning, sunlight streamed into the dorm room. Yugo gradually opened, her eyes. Her head throbbed. The room swayed slightly. Riley was seated nearby, waiting patiently. She offered Yugo a glass of water along with some painkillers. Yugo took the medication, still in a state of confusion. Then Riley settled down beside her. We need to have a discussion. Typically, Riley would not have divulged everything so abruptly, but time was of the essence. The police had already commenced their investigation into the party, and Yugo had to be informed of the reality. Initially, Yugo was skeptical, but Riley quietly handed her the phone. Watch. And then Yugo witnessed everything. That night, Riley found it difficult to sleep. She had attended similar parties in the past. She was aware of the potential troubles that could arise. And when Yugo ceased responding to her messages, she became worried. She checked the sophomore group chat. Someone had posted a warning. The police were already en route to the mansion. At that moment, Riley realized she needed to leave immediately. She began preparing herself, donning a black hoodie and sunglasses to conceal her identity. If Muna or her friends recognized her, they might attempt to prevent her from going. Minutes later, Riley arrived at the party, where chaos had already erupted. People were fleeing the mansion in all directions. She scanned the crowd for Yugo and soon spotted them. Ma was stuffing something into Yugo's bag. Riley quickly took out her phone and began recording, capturing every movement and moment. After the girls fled, Riley waited 2 minutes to ensure everyone had left before rushing to the couch to help Yugo up, just before the police arrived. No way. How could she do this? I thought we were sisters, Yugo exclaimed, staring at the phone in disbelief. Her hands trembled as the weight of betrayal, lies, and manipulation crashed down on her. Tears streamed down her face, filled with anger, rage, sadness, and profound betrayal. Yugo looked at Riley, confused. But what did Ma say that day? That video about you too? What really happened? Riley replied, we were friends in freshman year, but over time, I began to notice things about her that felt off. When I confronted her, she turned against me, spreading rumors, bullying me, and even sabotaging one of my major school projects. That video you saw was the day I finally lost my patience. Riley glanced at Yugo. After that, we became enemies. I'm so sorry, Riley, for everything, Yugo said. It's okay, Yugo, Riley gently reassured her. We need to think carefully now. However, Yugo suddenly stood up, fueled by anger. I'm going to find her, she declared, storming out of the dorm. Riley chased after her, trying to stop her, but Yugo was too furious. She sprinted across campus until she finally spotted Muna and her friends sitting in a coffee shop, laughing as if nothing had happened. Yugo approached their table directly. The girls were taken aback. Ma quickly attempted to feign surprise. Oh my god. Yugo, where have you been? However, before she could complete her sentence, Yugo delivered a sharp slap to her face. Riley swiftly intervened, trying to pacify Yugo. Then Yugo erupted. How could you be so cruel, Mona? What have I done to warrant this? Muna's insincere smile vanished. You know, Yugo, you're such an ungrateful wretch. After everything I have done for you, you still had the audacity to come here and speak nonsense. You village girl. Ma, you had better be cautious. Oh, just be quiet. I place my trust in you, Muna. Laughter, wait. You genuinely believed I was your friend? You miserable little fool. You were merely a plaything. I never cared for you. Yugo's heart was crushed. The dispute rapidly escalated into a physical altercation. The girls began to fight until school officials hurried in to separate them. Both girls were escorted to the dean's office. They assumed it was due to the fight, but that was not the case. The police were already present. They had been summoned regarding the drugs from the party. Both girls were now considered suspects. Muna quickly accused Yugo. Sir, that purse belongs to her. But the officer responded calmly, your fingerprints are also on the bag. Muna was taken aback. She had forgotten that she had touched the bag when she planted the drugs. In a hurry, she fabricated a story. My fingerprints are there only because I assisted her in holding it when she went to the restroom. Sir, I have no connection to those items. She's lying. The officers continued their inquiries, but the investigation was far from over. While the girls were being interrogated, Riley had rushed back to the dormitory. She collected all the evidence she had been secretly documenting for months. Then, hours later, she burst into the dean's office. I have proof. Yugo is innocent. Mona's complexion turned ashen. Riley presented the officers with everything. Old recordings from their freshman year when she and Mona were roommates. It turned out that after the incidents involving Mona and Riley, she had begun to document everything. Evidence emerged of Mona engaging in drug sales, including footage of her concealing drugs within pillowcases. The reality was indisputable. Following a thorough investigation, Mona and a number of her associates were apprehended. For you, there is a sense of regret. Despite Yugo being exonerated, the repercussions had already taken their toll. One evening in her dormitory, Yugo accessed her laptop. Her heart plummeted. She had missed classes, failed assignments, and received poor grades. Overwhelmed, she broke down in tears. This was not the life she had envisioned when coming abroad. Then, she noticed another message from her parents stating, Yuo, we received an email from your school regarding your attendance. Is everything all right? Please call us when you see this. Yugo promptly contacted her parents. Through her tears, she recounted everything. Her parents listened attentively. Then they imparted a lesson she would always remember. Everyone makes mistakes. What truly matters is the course of action you take afterward. Redemption. With Riley's assistance, Yugo gradually began to reconstruct her life. They studied together, took late-night walks, and prepared for examinations. Gradually, circumstances began to improve. Their friendship deepened significantly. They even participated in several safe campus events together, demonstrating that not every gathering was perilous, only those with the wrong individuals. Time elapsed. Winter set in. Snow blanketed the campus. Yugo and Riley spent their evenings sipping hot coffee and sharing laughter. For the first time in months, life felt serene once more. Soon, it was Riley's graduation day. Yugo beamed with pride from the audience, tears welling in her eyes, capturing numerous photographs with Riley. Yugo dedicated her final year to focused study, hard work, project presentations, and rebuilding her future until at last, her graduation day arrived. Her parents beamed with pride through a video call, and Riley returned to celebrate with her, now a thriving businesswoman. They embraced tightly, both feeling immense pride in Yugo's journey. After graduation, Yugo returned to her village, not out of failure, but with a mission to instigate change, assist her community, and provide others with the opportunities she had tirelessly fought for. Her family greeted her with happiness. And as she surveyed her village, Ogo beamed. She had erred, yet she had gained wisdom. Now she was prepared to create something superior. Yugo had placed her trust in the wrong individual and nearly lost everything as a result. However, ultimately, she acquired a lesson of immense value. Genuine friendship is not determined by one's origins, but rather by the choices they make. Sometimes, the true friend is the one courageous enough to speak the truth. If this narrative resonated with you, then you are already a member of this family.